It appears that Briahna Joy Gray is being attacked yet again. This time she's getting attacked from Zionists. They put out a hit piece against her. Bree tweeted this earlier. I'm not going to stop telling the truth about Israel, certainly not because of some cry bully hit piece from a journalist with a very loose relationship with truth himself. So let's go ahead and get into this article, and I'll play a little bit of the video that I think actually caused the stir here. So yeah, they're coming after Bree. It says the Hill's online show Rising falls prey to host anti-Israel conspiracy theories. So now they're trying to basically give Bree the conspiracy theorist stamp. We all know how this goes. Rising, a popular what happened? Rising, a popular online morning news and opinion show produced by The Hill, has long promoted itself as a unique forum of heterodox debate, not seen on other mainstream broadcasts, with two leading co-hosts from opposite ends of the political spectrum facing off on any number of hot-button issues. The program, launched in 2018, has occasionally drawn scrutiny as an evolving cast of outspoken hosts on the populist left and right have courted controversy for amplifying fringe views. There's that word again, fringe. I told you a lot of times mainstream media, anything that's not status quo, they call fringe. So let's get to this part here about Bree. Since October 7 attacks, the show's most high-profile host, Briahna Joy Gray, a far-left pundit who served as the national press secretary on Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign, has repeatedly used her platform to downplay the violence, sharing commentary that some viewers have interpreted as defending Hamas actions. So let's interject here. What violence do they believe she's downplaying? They've talked about the violence on the show multiple times. Obviously, if you're going to compare what happened the day of that festival where Hamas did kill some of the people at the festival, if you're going to compare that to the 25,000 people that have been killed in Gaza, obviously there's no comparison there. You can't make this comparison of 1,200 people is the same as 25,000 people. Israel's response to this has been an over response. So I don't know what they're talking about there. It goes on to say violence is not a violation of international law. Gray said in one broadcast shortly after the attacks, resistance is not a violation of international law. So that's actually correct. You know, I mean, Bree was a lawyer. See, they think that people just don't know the law. More recently, Gray has sought to boost unverified claims that Israel is intentionally targeting hostages in Gaza, as she argued in a monologue aired on Wednesday. This is not just accidental killings in the fog of war, but seemingly a policy to prevent Israel from being in the position of having to negotiate the release of thousands of Palestinians who were imprisoned in Israel before October 7th, and now in exchange for their own Israeli hostages. So notice something here. When it comes to Palestinians being killed, mainstream media says that those claims are unverified. But all of these mainstream media pundits went around for days spreading the lie about the beheaded babies. So when the Israeli press says something, it's automatically considered to be verified. But when the Palestinian press says something, it's unverified until proven. And even when proven, they still say it's unverified. It goes on to say here, the 38-year-old progressive commentator has also criticized conflicting reports about decapitated babies as being part of a propaganda campaign to tarnish Palestinians as barbaric and to justify what she has called a genocide in Gaza, among other comments that have raised eyebrows among viewers. So when you're spreading a lie, something that was unproven, and then you have the United States President Joe Biden also repeating that lie and saying that he saw pictures of decapitated babies, yes, that is considered to be propaganda. I mean, this is really simple. In fact, this entire article is propaganda. But perhaps most troublingly to followers of the show who have expressed alarm over its recent direction, Gray, who has become unusually fixated on Israel in the wake of the attacks, has engaged in a concerted effort to cast doubt on Hamas' use of widespread sexual violence against women, the growing evidence for which she has continued to dismiss as inadequate. So I'm just going to say again, there was no forensic evidence in reference to those attacks, these supposed attacks. The Gray Zone has debunked this multiple times. I told you this entire article is propaganda. Zionists are asking what we believe the uncorroborated eyewitness account of men who described these assaults in odd fascistic terms. Gray wrote last month on X, formerly Twitter, where she boasts a sizable following and frequently inveighs against Israel. Shame on Israel for not seriously investigating the claim of the assault. Again, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Now, all of a sudden, it's wrong to ask for an investigation. In an episode of Rising earlier this month, Gray enlisted Max Blumenthal, a prominent conspiracy theorist. You see what they're doing here? Two things. Anyone who criticizes Israel or questions what Israel is doing, they're either anti-Semitic or they're conspiracy theorists, who has spread misinformation about Hamas terror attacks in an effort to invalidate a recent New York Times investigation that established a broad pattern of gender-based violence on October 7th. So one thing I will say, I did see Max's talk in person when he came here to Boston. Max has said over and over again that one thing that we do know that is for certain is that Hamas did kill people at the festival. However, he said that these numbers have been exaggerated, and Israel itself in the beginning said it was 1,400 people. Then they kept rolling the number back. Next thing you know, then they said it was 1,200 people, because some of the people that were killed by the IDF. That's why they kept changing the number. So there's that. Let's scoot down here. Joel Rubin, a progressive activist who worked as a Jewish outreach director on Sanders' 2020 campaign and has appeared on Rising, said he views Gray's efforts to deny the atrocities committed on October 7th as part of a broader pattern of anti-Semitic activity that has gained traction among left-wing critics of Israel since the attack. So criticizing the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic. Debunking propaganda and false reports is also not anti-Semitic. What's interesting to me is that they continue to say people are denying the atrocities that happened on October 7th. I just told you that Max Blumenthal multiple times has confirmed, well, we do know that Hamas did kill people on October 7th. Bree has not denied that. I watched these segments on Rising. I know she has not denied that. The problem is that the Zionists and the Zionist propaganda machine, which is embedded in mainstream media, doesn't want you to acknowledge what is happening to the Palestinian people. They want you to only focus on what happened to the Israeli people. They want you to focus on the 1,200 people and not the 25,000 people. That's the problem. You can't call yourself a progressive if you're saying anti-Semitic things. So here we go again, right? If you criticize the state of Israel, they're saying that it's automatically anti-Semitic. What's interesting, though, some of these same people, if this was the other way around, and if it was every time something was criticized in reference to Black people, and if we said that's racist, they would call us the woke mob. It's about the power structure in place. This denial of violence against women is devaluing Jewish lives. No. What is devaluing Jewish lives right now are the atrocities that are happening to the Palestinian people. Israel committing genocide against the Palestinians is actually hurting Jewish people. It's hurting Jewish people. It's not good for Jewish people. That's the thing that drives me crazy. Even as Gray's commentary has faced pushback from her libertarian co-host Robbie, a senior editor of Reason magazine whose objections to her views on the conflict have resulted in some notable shouting matches. Critics say the show has too often failed to provide a platform for dissenting opinion, leading some followers to give up on the program altogether. So it says Robbie declined to comment. It's really interesting. If you look at the comment section of Rising, of these segments, the comment section is largely in favor of criticizing the state of Israel for the genocide. So far, the only person that you've heard from in this article was that one guy, Ruben. It goes on to say Vanessa Santos, who leads Renegade DC, a public relations firm in Washington, said she had long defended the show and encouraged her clients to appear on the program if they were invited. I said time after time that what I personally like about the show is that they're bringing together people with different perspectives. It's a format that cable news networks have almost completely done away with. But following the Hamas attack, Santos said she has decided to no longer work with the show, claiming that pro-Israel clients whom she has pitched as guests have been canceled on, disrespected on air, or ignored entirely, experiences that she believes have shown the program is not interested in open and honest discord. Let's go ahead and change something here. Where it says pro-Israel clients, we're going to change that to Zionists. Let's continue. Rising used to be good, but it has become completely unserious with its decline accelerating in the wake of October 7th. This is coming from Santos, has relegated substantive political and policy discussions to Briahna's emotional outbursts and takes. What about the emotional outbursts and takes from Robbie? You see how I told you guys this before. This space is incredibly hostile towards Black women. I've been telling you guys this from day one. And demonstrates a painfully obvious obstinacy towards fair representation of viewpoint diversity. Santos isn't the only critic who has chosen to stop engaging with the show. One person who frequently appeared on the program before October 7th, speaking anonymously to avoid reprisals, confided to Jewish Insider that Gray's commentary has become so toxic as to preclude any future engagement. Gray would not respond to requests for comment, the Jewish Insider. So let me just remind you guys, this was also done to Kim Iverson in reference to Russia and Ukraine and in reference to the mandates. There were hit pieces against her too. Anyone, again, like I said, that goes against the status quo. Now, I want to show you part of the segment that I think prompted this article. It's the one Briahna Joy Gray new horrifying video details Israeli genocide. Let's jump in at this piece here.
For example, on October 9th, Israel's defense minister declared a complete siege on Gaza, barring electricity, food, water, and fuel, on the grounds that Israel was fighting human animals. He went on to say that, quote, Gaza won't return to what it was before. We will eliminate everything. If it doesn't take one day, it will take a week. It will take weeks or even months. We will reach all places. President Herzog erased the distinction between militants and civilians, saying it's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved is absolutely not true. Israeli Minister for National Security Ben Gvir said on November 10th, Oh, to be clear, when we say that Hamas should be destroyed, it also means those who celebrate, those who support, and those who hand out candy. They're all terrorists, and they should be destroyed. The Israeli Minister of Energy and Infrastructure tweeted that all the civilian population in Gaza is ordered to leave immediately. Israeli Minister of Heritage said after a month of bombardment, quote, "The north of the Gaza Strip, more beautiful than ever. Everything is blown up and flattened. Simply a pleasure for the eyes. We must talk about the day after in my mind. We will hand over lots to all those who fought for Gaza over the years." That's him openly announcing an intent to parcel out Palestinian land to the soldiers who destroyed it. The Israeli Minister of Agriculture announced, quote, "We are now actually rolling out the Gaza Nakba." Deputy Speaker of the Knesset and member of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee said, "Now we all have one common goal, erasing the Gaza Strip from the face of the earth." Israeli Army reservist Major General Gloria Eland wrote, "People should be told that they have two choices, to stay and to starve or to leave." He later told a newspaper that the only way to see the hostages alive again was to, quote, "create a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza."
See, these are some of the things that I think prompted that article, because what Bree is doing is she's using Israel's words against itself. I told you this before. Israel's worst enemy is itself. The rhetoric from Netanyahu, the interviews with Mark Regev and other Israeli officials where they've made these statements that are not even covert. They're actually overt, telling you what they want and what they intend to do. So she used their own words against them.
He's repeatedly called for Gaza to be made uninhabitable on social media, addressing the controversy around the Al-Shifa hospital bombing. He said, quote, "I hope that the head of the CIA got an explanation of why this is necessary and why the U.S. must ultimately back even an operation like this, even if there are thousands of bodies of civilians in the streets afterward." These quotes go on for pages and pages and pages in South Africa's petition. Now, even if you discount these admissions, Israel's claim that it does not intend to permanently displace Gazans are undermined by the choice to destroy 60% of all housing stock in Gaza, including by conducting controlled demolitions. One might ask whether there's a real threat of Hamas hiding in a given building if soldiers have time to set charges, walk away a distance, and blow up a building while recording it for social media. The infrastructure and foundations of Palestinian life have also been deliberately targeted, according to the petition, including court buildings, legislative buildings, the public library, universities, Christian and Muslim religious sites, museums, and the Central Archive containing thousands of historical documents and national records.
And all of the hospitals.
Moreover, reported plans to flood the tunnels of Gaza with seawater may have the effect of contaminating Gaza's aquifers and soil for the long term, undermining the ability to grow any crops there, literally salting the earth like medieval armies, making the land uninhabitable. Reports that Israel is in talks to export the Gazans to the Congo also don't exactly scream right of return. Now, the South African report also notes the consequences of Israel denying health care to Gaza, specifically citing 5 premature babies that were left to die and to decompose in an ICU, along with 40 kidney patients at Al-Shifa Hospital. Pregnant women are undergoing cesareans without anesthesia. Limbs are being amputated without pain meds. Over 1,000 children have lost either one or both legs.
Not to mention, see, this is the piece, or one of the pieces that's really important when she's talking about the injuries and the fact that Israel destroyed all of the hospitals. So obviously they don't have the medical equipment that they need. They don't have anesthesia. So this is really important, right? So check this out. One of the most damning pieces of evidence is when Israel told people in North Gaza to move south because the war was going to take place in North Gaza, and then they started bombing South Gaza as well. Another damning piece of evidence is when they gave them exit points to go to get out of harm's way, and then they bombed those exit points. And these things were all on video. So Israel has shown time and time again that the sole purpose is to rid the land of the Palestinian people. Hamas is the convenient excuse, because as long as you do have some type of resistance that is rising up there, obviously they can point to them and say, that's what we're trying to weed out. Meanwhile, it's very obvious to the world what Israel is really trying to do, and that is ethnically cleanse the land.
Infectious disease is spreading as there are hundreds of Palestinians per every remaining toilet, and sewage is running in the street. Even the dead aren't allowed to rest, as the South African report cites an allegation that Israeli bulldozers, quote, excavated and exhumed a hospital mass grave on December 16th, only to, quote, drag the bodies with bulldozers and then crush them. Now, after reading all this, John Kirby, Biden's National Security Council spokesman, says he's unpersuaded.
As you know, you dismissed a few days ago the case that brought by South Africa against Israel at the ICJ. Did you read the indictment? And if you did, do you believe that cutting off water, electricity, and fuel on a civilian population does not constitute a war crime by itself, nothing else?
Yes, I read the indictment, and as I said, and we stand by what we said about this. We find it without merit. We find it counterproductive, and I'll leave it there.
See, anytime it's an accusation against Israel, all of a sudden John Kirby is like, well, I don't know about that, or we haven't found that to be true. When it was obvious, there were reports that the electricity had been cut. Obviously, later on, it was reported that they weren't allowing food to come into Gaza as well, that they had cut off forms of communication. This includes internet, by the way, because they're trying to silence the people and silence information from getting out, because the world was seeing what was happening via social media. So the thing is this. Basically, what you have here is John Kirby, the Biden administration, this country in general, our government, running cover for Israel's crimes. That is what is happening. And again, as we all remember, this is all connected to the money. So if you have so many politicians that are in bed with the Israeli lobby, this is what you get as a result. This is why I continue to say that AIPAC shouldn't even exist. You shouldn't have an organization in this country that is doing bidding for another country abroad. That's why JFK said that organizations like AIPAC should register as a foreign agent. So you have to pay attention to these types of things.
Now, if South Africa wins before the ICJ, it could lead to Israel being enjoined from conducting further genocidal acts. But that injunction would be temporary. The next step would be a trial process that could take years. Now, America has a long record of dodging accountability on the international stage. As journalist Abby Martin noted, America is so adverse to accountability that George Bush passed a law known as the Hague Invasion Act, which would allow the U.S. to invade the Netherlands to prevent America from being charged with war crimes. With no way to enforce the ICJ's decision, it's worth noting domestic efforts to force Biden to end his support for Israel's siege, which could not continue without U.S. support. Bernie Sanders.
And we'll just pause it there, and then they get into domestic resistance and accountability is necessary. And I believe it was this piece that was the problem, that they had a problem with, because she listed all the things that Israel has done in reference to evidence to prove that Israel is actively committing genocide. And that's why they have a problem. So what did they do in that article? Let's think about some things. One of the things that they did is they tried to use the angry black woman trope against Bree, lashing out her behavior. Robbie screamed at Bree on that show multiple times. I would say way worse than Bree has. So they used that. They used the conspiracy theory trope. And then they tried to use the excuse as some of the people were afraid. So they decided to either leave the show or they decided not to watch the show anymore. but they can only name two people. The other guy was someone who was a guest on the show, but they could only reference two people. You go to any Rising video right now about Israel and Gaza and look at the comment section. Most of the comments are in favor of a ceasefire and ending the genocide of the Palestinian people. But when they wrote that article, they only presented two people in front of you in that article. That's an exaggeration. And that's done on purpose to try to make it seem like things are way worse than they actually are. They did the same thing to Kim Iverson. It was the Daily Beast who did it. Different issue, but the same thing. They were like, one of the employees at Rising said, da 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 da. One person all of a sudden equaled people at the Hill aren't happy with her. Exaggerating. So they're making these hit pieces against people. This is how far the Zionist propaganda and the narrative is willing to go. This is what they'll do. Let's see if we can get her removed from the show. Okay. And then you'll just have to replace her with another left voice who's also going to have the same position. You can't silence all of us. This is the thing, guys. They can't silence all of us. So they try to take out the big wigs first. They try to come after them first. There are so many people that are very knowledgeable on this issue that have been to Gaza, that have been to Israel, that have been to the West Bank, echoing the same things that Bree is making. Some of them have lost careers because of it. Norm Finkelstein can't go back to Israel. This is how powerful Zionism is. And this is what people need to see. That type of control, that type of power is incredibly dangerous. That's why you got Elon Musk over at Auschwitz instead of in Gaza. They got to him too. And you see, they take out the university presidents. It was never really about plagiarism. That was just an excuse to get them out of there. It was because they would not bow to the Zionist agenda. That's why they're gone. The plagiarism thing was just a distraction. So now they try to find ways to smear her and attack her. It's very sad. It really is. But you have to be firm in your position. And Bree said earlier in this tweet, she said, I am not going to stop telling the truth about Israel, certainly not because of some cry bully hit piece from a journalist with a very loose relationship with truth himself. So what people have to understand is that Bree is going to be a target, not just because of Israel and Gaza, but also because she was Bernie Sanders' press secretary, and she said that she would not be voting for Joe Biden. She would not be supporting Joe Biden. So ever since then, they kind of see her as a target because she's not going along with the status quo. Not everybody want to take that smoke. And sometimes people have lost things because of that. I'm willing to bet you that Bree has probably lost opportunities in reference to her career because she took that position. Not everybody's willing to do that. And I think you can look around and you can see who's not willing to do it. This is why people like Crystal and Kyle will still tell you what I'll still support Joe Biden because of all the good things that he did. They'll call out the genocide and stuff, but they don't want that smoke either, hun. They don't want that smoke. They don't want no hit pieces on them. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody can put up with it. But that's what they'll do. Why do you guys think we'll cover this Thursday? Why do you think Sam Cedar, Humanist Report, all these people that said they were progressive, which I told you they're just liberals who want health care, why do you think they're out there telling people to support Joe Biden? Why do you think so? Because they don't want that smoke. And they want that centrist liberal money still coming in their pockets. That's why. It takes a real one. It takes a real one to break away and tell you, no, actually, I supported Jill Stein in 2016. It takes a real one to do that. And you look around, a lot of the people that did that are nowhere to be found now. They find ways to silence these people. I'm not kidding, man. So you have to be strong and you have to stand firm in what you believe. And they're going to throw all kinds of things at you. All kinds of things. And I'm telling you why. That's exactly why some people realized it was a lot easier and a lot more profitable to take the centrist position, to take the moderate position, to go along with the status quo so they don't rock that boat. That's your David Pakman. That's your TYT. That's your humanist report. That's all the people who were a part of this Bernie movement that decided to just go with Democrat establishment because it was more profitable and because it was easier. So think about that, folks. Think about that. I know some people have been blackballed. Thank you for the super sticker, Trash Panda. Thank you, NY Varsity Sports. I don't always agree with Bree, but she never ever went with a story she did not have solid info on. Bree should be thanking them. Streisand effect. Thank you, Naz. Thank God for people like Bree. Appreciate her so much. Very courageous. Thank you, NY Varsity. Propaganda rule number 1. If Bree or Max wanted to debate you on this, just say no. I don't want to give them a platform. Bunch of cowards. JK says Robbie is white supremacist in my view. Most of the comment section on Rising agrees with Bree. You can count the few who agree with Robbie. Interesting. I don't know if I would call Robbie a white supremacist, but thank you for the super chat, Nas. Pedophile Dershowitz interview may have also prompted this attack. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. JB says keeping your integrity costs a lot, but it's worth it in the end.